Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Lucy and I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and mind-body approaches that can help with those conditions and other mind-body conditions. I also offer coaching to people who are interested in applying this approach and feel like they would benefit from support doing that. So today's video is talking about why some people get better quicker than others. For a start, I think getting better for the long term is a better aspiration than getting better quicker. And I suppose that the purpose of this video is just to think about some of the reasons why for some people it might take longer, and for some people the conditions could be right for them to make much quicker progress. In any case, really, staying well is the most important thing, because a lot of us have been there where we've gotten better and then had a huge setback where a lot of symptoms have come back and we've been back at square one again. And so I think getting better for the long run is a really important goal to have, and sometimes that involves then not caring so much about how long the process might take. Of course, that's easier said than done. Everyone wants to get better as quickly as possible. So what I share in this video is solely my own perspective on this topic. I'm not sharing medical or mental health advice. And this video is solely focusing on a mind-body approach. One thing that can have a big impact on how quickly someone recovers using this approach is the timing and how they receive the information. So, for instance, I read a book, a mind-body book, a few months before everything actually clicked, and I read another book that resonated much better with me. And it's interesting because some people have told me that book that I found really helpful didn't resonate with them as much. So that particular book is The Mind-Body Prescription. And for me, what resonated most in that book was just the idea that emotions could be repressed, because I hadn't come across that idea before. But for others, maybe they have come across that idea, but another book will resonate with them in a different way. I think also sometimes the timing needs to be right in terms of our mindset and where we are on our journey. Often people go through a period of time at the beginning of being unwell where they are trying many different things. They feel a lot of pressure to get better quicker. There's generally a sense of anxiety, pressure, and impatience. And I'm not speaking for everyone when I say that. I went through that phase, and I know of quite a few other people who would agree that they went through that sort of phase as well. And naturally, when you get unwell, you do want to get better as quickly as possible, and you're not used to being unwell for a long time. So sometimes it takes a number of months for you to actually get into a sense of acceptance that this has happened, that you're still unwell, and that it's going to take time to actually find something that works, and that the pressure to get better quickly won't help. And so again, you know, if I had been introduced to some of the mind-body approach earlier on when I was unwell, I might not have been able to use the tools as effectively, or really took it all on board, because I didn't have the experience of trying so many other things first and them not working as well. I think sometimes when you've tried many, many different things, maybe they've helped to some extent, but they haven't helped really make the difference. You look at things from a different perspective, and whilst sometimes it can be discouraging to be in that situation, it also can mean that you are more open to trying something more fully, because you know that you've been there, done that with the other approaches. So you feel like you've left no stone unturned, and you can put your full focus into this approach. If you have many fingers in different pies and you're trying many different approaches at once, it may not be easy to fully focus on one. Another thing that can impact the speed of progress is how easy it is for you to generate feelings of safety in your body. So some people, before they got unwell, generally felt safe and secure and able to be with their emotion, able to be with their experience quite easily. And they began to feel unsafe once they became unwell, their symptoms became chronic, and they got stuck into this cycle of fear and doubt and concern and powerlessness. But if they are very familiar with a feeling of safety, it's easier for them to practice that feeling and to regulate their nervous system when they come across a mind-body approach and start practicing that. It can be harder for other people who don't identify with feeling safe before they got unwell. And this doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have had thoughts all the time of, I don't feel safe. It's more related to a feeling under the surface of needing to protect yourself, not feeling fully secure in different situations or many situations. So one example might be if, for instance, you don't trust others or you don't like to rely on others, there can be an inherent feeling of a lack of safety, because in life often we do need to rely on others, even if it's for small things. And if we feel safer being independent, that could generally make us feel a bit less safe, because it's hard to be 100% independent. Another example could be if someone has always been anxious their whole lives. So if, for instance, they have been a worrier, where they worry about things that might go wrong in the future and what bad things might happen, that can be a protective mechanism. But generally, if we're thinking about the things that might go wrong in our lives, we're not feeling safe because we're consumed with all of the possibilities of challenges and difficulties. Another thing that it can impact the speed of recovery is the ability to identify emotions. And I don't think this is necessarily the case for everyone. Some people manage to use this approach without doing too much emotional work. So it does depend person to person. But for some people, it is naturally easier for them to identify what emotional triggers are underlying symptoms. And once you can understand what those are, pieces start to fit together much quicker, and you can trust the approach much quicker because it starts to make sense and you start to believe that this makes sense to you and it fits in with your own personal experience. If you struggle to identify what emotions might be behind symptoms, it can be harder to really relate and feel like this approach matches your experience and matches what you are dealing with. And often it's not easy to identify emotions, and it can feel like a bit of a guessing game. And there are different reasons why people might repress emotions, and there are different ways that people repress emotions. Some people have a much greater tendency to repress things than others. So that is another factor that might mean that it takes a little bit more time for some people compared to others. Another factor could be to do with personality traits. So some people get quicker faster because they're able to accept the situation and fully go with the approach. Other people naturally, because of certain personality traits, find it more challenging. Maybe they are feeling perfectionistic about how they do this. They might feel a lot more pressure to not make a mistake, or when symptoms come up, they can be really hard on themselves and go into a fixing mode. There's another video that, if I haven't put it out yet, I will be putting out on on Howard Schubner's 5 F's. Those are fear, focus, fixing, frustration, and fighting. So those are, I'll go through those in a different video and I'll link that video below. we can easily fall into these 5 F's when we are dealing with chronic symptoms. And depending on how easy or difficult you find to manage those things, it will impact the speed of how quickly you can get better. Another factor can be to do with life situations. So I made another video before about stressful life events and using a mind-body approach. And the main point of that video was that people can still recover even with stressful life events around them, as long as they're not repressing emotions and they're able to feel those emotions. Because life for many people is naturally stressful and one thing comes up after the next. But for some people, they are in a situation that's very triggering for their nervous system. And it might be a work situation, it might be a situation that involves a relationship where that person feels unsafe or very triggered. It might involve a situation in which they're living in an area where there's conflict. So if you are living in very difficult circumstances, it might impact how safe you feel and how your nervous system responds. That is something you can work on even if you're living in a stressful situation. So I don't think people should lose hope and think it's not possible for them to recover. But it might mean that it takes longer for those people to recover. One of the reasons I wanted to talk about these points today was because I think some people find it really hard when they're not making quick progress. And I wanted to normalize that it does take time for a lot of people. Personally, it took me some time. I didn't recover overnight. It took me a number of months to use these tools and techniques. And I found that because of that, I learned a lot about the challenges, the process, how to overcome some of the difficult situations that arise, how to manage fear and doubt on a regular basis. And I think that did really help me for my long-term recovery. So if you feel like it's taking you a long time, hopefully some of the learning that you experience during this time will actually help you more in the long run and help you if symptoms come back in future. Because with mind-body conditions, symptoms can come back. What we want to be able to do is know what to do in that situation. I think it's much more empowering to feel like you know how to manage it rather than that you got better and you're not sure how and you're not sure what to do if symptoms come back again, other than respond with fear and concern and trying to fix it again. So if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you feel like you'd benefit from some support using this approach, feel free to contact me through the links in my description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.